Okay, we're back with Etta Dale, Mrs. Grace. We got a few more questions.
Who is the oldest relative you remember as a child? What do you remember about them?
I had a grandmother that was on the Turner side of the family, and she lived to be 99.
Was the Turner side your mom's or your dad's?
And my mother's side of the family. I have a picture of her in a group that we have, group picture.
Now, what do you remember about her, Grandma?
Only at the reunions, I just barely remember her as a little girl.
Mm-hmm. That's neat.
I think you're going to live to be 99.
Oh my goodness.
99, that's young for Grandma.
Well, let's shoot for 150.
Maybe I'll see your great-grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren then.
That would be
That's what we're shooting for.
awesome. Just keep working out the why. Okay. What do you know about your family's surname? Considering I don't know what that word means.
Yes, I do. But I'm thinking I really don't know what the word means. I've looked it up on the internet some, but that's all. I really don't know.
Dad, do you know what surname is?
Next question.
His surname is like your maiden name, right?
What's your family's surname? It says what your
Surname
family's
is
surname
the
is.
history behind,
No, it's the history behind your name.
behind your name.
Behind Ryder Turner.
This next question. What stories have come down to you about your parents, grandparents, or more distant ancestors?
Well, I think we've covered part of that
Yeah.
through the storm with my dad's family, and that's the main thing that has come through the family. And my grandmother Turner was killed in a car accident. I mean, a train accident. And she lived 9 days after the accident. One child died. She was taking a Sunday school group to the park to play. And the train hit the car. And she died 9 days later.
Are there any stories about famous or infamous relatives in your family?
Oh, I can't think of anything. Not neither can I.
Because we don't really know.
There's nobody famous, Grandma?
Except me.
That's true.
No, young living lady.
We saw the picture with Hugh Hefner, Grandma.
Oh.
No telling the rest of it was kept quiet.
Oh, wow.
I won't tell. What's the next question, girl?
Next question.
She wants to go on to the next question.
I'm good with that. Have any recipes been passed down to you from your family members?
If I have, Grandma don't know.
I think it's better if you don't. Don't worry.
Because I could pass it down, and I could put on something to cook, and it'd boil over or something, and I'd have to stir, and then I'd take the whole pan out, put it in the trash can. Pan too. Grandma's no cook.
Are there any physical characteristics that run in your family?
No. I can't think of any.
Like physical?
Not anything. Heart problems are really the only thing that kind of come down through our family, so.
Okay. Are there any special heirlooms, photos, Bibles, or other memorabilia that have passed down in your family?
Well, I think I told you about the little cameo. At one time I told you, I have a little cameo about this way. And it's about this size. It belonged to my mother. And she got it when she was about 15 years old. and I have it. And someday I want you to have it.
What is that?
A little cameo, some woman's head. In fact, your dad's mother wore it in their wedding. I have it, and I want you to have it.
Was there any other heirlooms, Grandma? Like your dad's Bible or family Bible or anything like that?
Oh, I have the old family Bible.
Well, I knew you had that.
Up the house. Yeah. It's up in the closet. Yep.
Now, what about Chloe or Merle? Do they have anything else?
Chloe has the other cameo that belonged to my mother. So we
You
got
do?
the two cameo. And Mother had a round watch that you could wear around your neck, the gold watches. And I wore it for a while as a wristwatch. And Merle got it from me and gave it to Tammy. She has it.
Tammy has it. That's
Tammy.
neat.
A cousin of
Oh,
his.
Okay. So those, when and how did you meet your spouse? And
All right,
What?
this is where the good stuff starts.
okay.
Let's
What did you do on dates?
On dates?
no. Let's talk about how you met Grandpa.
First.
Well, I met him on a blind date. And I hate to tell you this. Honey, we met in about January the 15th. And he gave me a box
January 15th, what year?
of 19. And when did we get married? 1946.
Oh wow.
January 46. And then we married in
No. Hold on. Let's talk about your first date, Grandma.
First date.
with Grandpa.
Yes. Well, it wasn't your first
No,
date. Let's talk about the first time you met him.
First time I met him, John brought him up. And I
John,
met
Uncle John.
Uncle John and your granddad were friends. I'm working around all this.
I know. We want to know the true story here. I'm not going to let you get away with not telling the real story.
This is.
I know the real story, Grandma.
Come on.
Well, to tell the truth about it,
Pay attention.
Rex was Merle's husband, which turned into be Merle's husband. And he was a friend, a nephew to the Bentons. And that's the ones we were with in California. They moved back to Texas. So we went over there one afternoon and we went riding around with Uncle Rex. The Rex. And I was in the front seat with him.
That's right. You had a date with Rex,
Yes, I had a date with Rex.
who ended up marrying Merle.
And then...
And who was
I
in the
didn't
back?
like him.
Who was in the back seat, Grandma?
Maxie, come on. I want to hear it. Just come on.
Well, John brought... Rex brought John up there. So the next week, I went with John.
Who ended up marrying Chloe.
There in Chloe.
I love this.
Then, after that way, well, John brought your granddad up. And I'd already had some blind dates, and I refused to go on this blind date again. And they talked me into going, because I'd been on some of them dates with other guys.
So, Grandma, how many other guys were there?
Oh.
One or two.
5,
They
20,
were terrible.
20, 30. Hold on.
And when,
50.
I will tell you this much. When your granddad came down and he brought me, and I said, okay, I will go. I was working. And Aunt Chloe was too.
Now, this is when Uncle John came up and to drive around you and Aunt Chloe.
Yes.
And
Right.
then he brought Grandpa up with you.
Well, John didn't have a car.
Oh, that's right. It was Grandpa's car.
Grandpa's car. And
Do you remember what kind of car was it?
It was a 1936.
36 Chevrolet.
Oh, very good.
and he had it all dolled up, honey.
Did he have the coon thing flying in the coon or the picture or something?
He had coon tails on there.
Oh, forget about that.
Not only that, honey, he had more. Yes, on the mirror, on the windows. Your granddad doctored up everything, but he had little stickers around of girls sitting up on the windows.
Oh my God.
And
Forget about the rest of his questions.
So-
I'm just kidding. But
we went, rolled around that afternoon, went out to the, to a place up on Flagpole Hill up there in Dallas, and ate dinner and came back, Aunt Chloe and Uncle John and all of us, and he wanted to come back, but I knew by the time I got back with him, and we walked up the stairs, and he wanted to know could he come back the next weekend, and I said, yes, you can. That's the only date I ever accepted twice. I went with these other guys, and that was the end of first of them. But when I went with your granddad, I said, yes. And he came back, and they came back.
Now,
the
Grandma,
weekend.
what was it about him that made you want to have a second date?
I don't know. I still don't know to this day. But I knew that he was my first love. And
It's because of them coon things on his
no,
antennas, wasn't it?
no. I will say this way. I said, if you're going to have those on the car, you're not coming back. So the next week that he came up, we met in Greenville. We'd go home on Greenville. They'd come up on Friday nights or Saturday morning.
And they'd come up from Mount Pleasant,
They
right?
came to Mount Pleasant, and
Because that was East Texas.
that was East Texas.
The Greenville wasn't East Texas,
No,
but
we
Mount
couldn't
Pleasant
say.
was East Texas. That was a different kind of folk over there,
Yeah.
huh?
Oh, and your daddy married somebody from way out there. Your granddad did.
Now, well, I know.
Then he came the second time he came, he still had them girls on the windows. And I told him I wouldn't go with him again if he had them. But he put little flags, American flags, with that antenna.
Grandpa, I love you.
Well, like we said, people would come into Greenville, and we'd walk the streets in Greenville at night and things. And it'd be about 10 or 11 o'clock of a day they'd come in. And if Mother was downtown, she said, somebody asked her, said, said, who's that car driving down that street there? And she says, I think it's my future son-in-law. John didn't have a car. And they stayed at a hotel in downtown Greenville.
Oh, Uncle John and Grandpa?
They'd spend Saturday nights.
You mean that they'd get a hotel and they were only about 30 miles away
Oh,
in
it's
Mount Pleasant?
Mount Pleasant, 70 miles away.
That's not that far, is it really? But still, they get a hotel down there. What were you guys drinking that
They came in
moonshine?
They would be there on a Saturday morning, and then they would take us back to the bus station on Sunday nights, and we'd ride the bus back to Dallas until we got married.
So how long did you guys date?
Can I tell that?
Yeah.
I met him in January, and we married in September. You can figure those months out. Oh, that was 3 or 4 years ago. No, it's all in the same year, honey. How many months? We got engaged.
Grace, I expect you to date a little bit longer than that.
Okay. Don't worry, I expect
That was a
too.
different time.
We married.
Different time, different place.
I think he asked me to marry him because I pretended I didn't like him.
You know what? That still works, Grace.
That still works.
I played hard to get. He said, do you actually love me enough that you'd marry me? And I said, oh, I don't know whether I would or not.
Is that what you said?
I love her enough to marry him.
Is that what you said when he? So how did Grandpa propose
How
to you?
exactly?
That was kind of the.
Now, where were? Do you remember where you were?
Yes, out there at the Greenville Park,
The Greenville Park.
and we'd park and sit in the car and talk.
And he just said it right there in the car to you.
Oh yeah. I was lucky.
Did he have a ring, or did he just say, "Will you marry me"? How'd he do it?
How do you do it? Just bring my home
Put his arm around me and asked me.
And
Will you marry me?
Then he said, "Do you love me?"
Enough to marry him.
And you said, "Maybe."
I don't know whether I
don't
do
know.
or not. And I said, yes, I do.
Did he give you a ring at that time? Did he have an engagement ring?
No, he brought it to me the next week.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
And then you were married for 62 years?
Yeah. That's love. That's love.
Wow.
Son.
Well, we discussed this later in our lives, and like I told him, yes, I knew, and he did too, because Jean, his sister, had set him up with a few dates, and he didn't like any of them. But when he met me, it was the same way. We just knew.
So he came back. He came back from the war. He's living in Mount Pleasant.
And he came back in the latter part of November,
Mm-hmm.
and we met in January.
So that was November 45.
5.
And then you met in
January.
46. And then got married in September of 46.
Not very long. But there was a lot of marriages in that time because the boys were out of the war and they all come home. That's
And they're all looking for little hot Etta Dale
Hot girls to go out
in
to
Greenville,
the club.
Texas.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Is there
yeah.
questions? What are some other questions about?
What's those other questions, girl? That's enough of that. You don't need to know anymore.
Oh,
I
we
don't
need to know a
got
lot more
one
about all
more.
that.
Here we go. Okay. Let's see. Where was it? Dang it. Oh, what was it like when you were? Oh, we went over that. Where? I did that. What memory stands out most from your wedding day?
Oh, man.
Come on.
You know, I was real fortunate in that. Merle and Rex just went to the preacher's house and got married.
So wait, Merle and
Married
Rex
before I did.
married. Now, did John and Chloe marry before you did?
After?
I married
Okay,
up
so Merle, the youngest, married
first.
first. Okay.
And that was she
Now,
married
how old was Rex?
about my age.
Okay, so he
Now?
was what, 5 years older than you or something? How much older was he than Merle?
The 2 years.
Okay, just 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but so at what age did Merle get married?
18.
18. So you were 20, 21?
I was 20.
You were 20. Okay. Okay, so they got married first.
Then you got
Okay,
married.
sorry, I didn't know that Merle got married first.
Yeah.
You learned a lot of things, right?
I know, I've learned a lot of stuff
Yeah.
here tonight.
Me too.
Okay, so what do you remember about your wedding day?
What really stands out from your wedding day?
Well, Merle got married in February, and she got pregnant right away, and Betty was born in the last of October.
Mm-hmm.
And so she came down to the preacher's house. That's where we married. And Chloe was my maid of honor
Wait. Where did you get...
in a parsonage of the Lee Street Church.
In the
a
Lee Street
house.
Church right there in Greenville.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you have... So you got married at the Lee Street Church, which I've seen. It's a beautiful place. And did you have a reception or
I'm
anything?
the only one of the girls that did.
That had a reception
Yes.
afterwards. And where did you have the reception?
Out at Grandpa Turner's house, because he had, Uncle Arthur and them had moved back there. And they had a nice, and I have pictures of me and a cake and everything.
Oh, that's
And-
neat.
Mhm.
Now, what was it? Do you remember the pastor's name that married you?
Brother Bell.
Brother Bell, and he was from what church?
This
From Lee Street?
From Lee Street? Oh.
Was that a Methodist church, or was it? Okay, that's neat.
And
So
that's when your granddad and I started going to that church.
Going to the.
And
So
we-
you went to Lee Street Methodist first?
No, I never went. We started going to that church.
Going to which church?
With Lee Street Church.
Oh, okay.
After your granddad and I married.
And then when did you start going to the other Methodist church in Greenville?
Well, we just transferred over. That was our where we're going now is at the Lee Street Church.
Oh, when did Lee Street transfer over to the other church?
About 30 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Your daddy was baptized in that old church.
And Lee Street? Oh, I see. I'm learning all sorts of stuff. I didn't know that. That's neat.
Educational.
Yeah, he was baptized. Well, as a baby,
Yeah.
and took the because I kept the little rose that they put on his head at the time. Yep.
Oh yeah, that's neat. Okay, so back to your wedding day. So what do you remember about that?
Well, after we left there, and there was quite a few people out there. My daddy came over, and I think my granddad was down at the wedding. Aunt Chloe and John and Rex and somebody else was there. Then we all went out to Grandpa Turner's. We had the little reception
Now, where did Grandpa Turner live?
on the Floyd Highway. The house has just recently been torn down.
Are you talking about the one as we head out to Orion's house
Uh-huh.
now that was right there on the left?
Oh,
Yeah.
what is?
And then we got in the car from there and left in that 37 Ford,
Mm-hmm.
old slick down across the back.
Now, did he still have the stickers on there
Huh?
of the girls? Did he
No,
still have the,
no, this is a different car.
Oh, different car.
Oh,
okay.
Lance, when I married him, that car was gone.
And
I
taken
told him
care
I was
of.
not riding that car again. So he bought a 37 Ford, slick down across the back.
All right.
And
Okay.
no, yeah, that's the one he bought after that. And we,
Wait. You bought a 37 Ford? But his first car was a 36 Chevy?
honey, you couldn't get cars during that time.
Well, I know, but I thought he was a Chevy guy.
No, well, he got anything he could buy
Oh, okay.
back in those days. But let me tell you, when we left there and went to Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Oh,
Was
really?
that
Oh,
in
my
that
goodness.
one? Oh my
Went through
gosh,
Deep Clean,
really?
Arkansas, and up there.
Mm-hmm.
He kept wanting to stop at every motel we went through. Grandma said, no, we're not stopping there. I'm not stopping.
You were married, Grandma. That's what you're supposed to do.
Finally, we
I'm glad to see he's a Harvey man.
Oh, please no.
and then
That's
we
so funny.
finally found a place before we got to Hot Springs. And then we drove up to Hot Springs and stayed there a day and night. But I was telling her, I didn't really realize until the night before we got married that Granddad had, the last of his money he had to buy his mother and dad a car, and he furnished, they had a crop that year, didn't make anything. His daddy handed him $25. That's all in the world he had of money. So I'd say, Granddad married me for my money. And I had $650 in the bank. I had a little more than $650 because when we got back and he got a job at, our first apartment was a room not even larger than this, a bed over on this end and a counter over here and an ice box which you had to put ice in and 4 little burners like you burn. And that's the apartment we lived in. And he
how
found a job in defense planes out there
Mm-hmm.
and went to work.
How long did you live in the apartment?
About 6 months. And we had no bathroom in it. You had to go out in a hall, and there was 2 other apartments than ours, and we had to share this big bathroom. If you
Wow.
didn't find anybody, you were lucky to have a place to live. Actually, the first place we ever lived in was in a house. We lived there for a week. Really, this was the truth. You couldn't find a place. We had a room at the front of this house. They rented it out, and we had to go through their bedroom back into the bathroom.
Oh, really?
Oh my
We
God.
lived
wow.
there a week until we got into this apartment.
Oh, wow.
Yes. There was no apartment. There was no places to live. You couldn't find anything. And
Why?
actually,
Why was
because
it?
it was after the war, and
Everybody came back and...
everything, the apartment's being rented out. And we had that he got that job out there, and I took him out to work one afternoon. We came back through the city of Greenville. I took him out to work at the plant, and I put on my brakes, and all it did is slide across the street. We bought a car the next day because I went and got my money out of the bank, and we bought that
Oh, yeah?
41 Chevy.
41 Chevy. How much did that cost you?
It cost $650.
Say, that's what you had in the bank?
So we
All right.
started with nothing,
Wow, that's neat.
really. So you can figure it out. But I
Wow.
couldn't stop the car. And I said, we can't have this. I can't even drive.
So
this
instead
car."
of fixing the brakes, you just said, well, let's just go buy another car?
Sure.
Why not?
Now I know where I get it from.
Your grandma.
All right, we're going to stop this. We'll continue more stories about Grandpa in a minute.